Hello, hello, Oklahoma County. It is January 28th of 2025, and it's campaign season. And this is the third episode of the Oklahoma County Justice Project. Again, hey, doing it the way that I know how, but soon I will be getting really good graphics and stuff like that. So just bear with me on this journey. So I wanted to talk about the county jail. Right? The case for this episode is called The Case for Dissolving the Jail Trust. Now, it's campaign season, and we are hearing a lot of things. We need to dissolve the jail trust, hand it back over to the sheriff, or we need to keep the jail trust. We need to never let law enforcement get back in there. And there's some clear things that I want to do the best I can to kind of help clear up, right? First of all, there's still law enforcement in charge of it. Corrections or detention centers, they fall under corrections. They are all considered law enforcement. They fall under the law enforcement umbrella. So that's kind of that doesn't make sense. Essentially what I'm trying to say is because they're all law enforcement. The thing is that they're not as trained well as the sheriff's office, and I'll get into that. I'll get into that here in a minute. But essentially a few years back, before 2019, the Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce, some key members within the Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce, decided that they a bunch of business people, billionaires, said, hey, you know what? We know we are the arbiters of truth and justice reform. So we're going to create CJAC, Criminal Justice Advisory Council. And their recommendation was to create the Criminal Justice Authority. CJAC's recommendation was to create a private body to run a public entity. And what they did was they brought in people who were not trained, who didn't know what they were doing, ex-politicians, former lawyers, former politicians, socialites, and it's been an abysmal failure. And so I'm going to briefly talk about how it's been an abysmal failure, right? So we have lost since 2020, since the jail trust officially took over, we have lost 54 people. 54 human beings. Now, I'm going to sit there and let you guys know that that's a lot, right? The jail is reporting 53. Social advocates like myself, and this was uncovered by People's Council for Justice Reform, who I'm a former member of. I'm a former founding member of. And that organization as a self, organization-wise, is the tip of the spear. They know more than anybody. And I still work with them. But anyway, they found that out. They found out that they had been covering up people. The number may be considerably much higher. Hopefully not, but it may be higher. Because if you covered up one, more than likely you covered up many. So we've lost 54 people since 2020, around there. And that is only a little over 4 years. Now, let's keep that in mind. The jail trust took over in mid-June of 2020. Not mid-June, June 1st, sorry. And we have passed 0 health inspections. We have failed 10. We failed 10 health inspections. We have had 54 deaths. Between the years of 2000 to 2019, the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office lost 73 people due to negligence. Way too high. That was about 3 times the national average. We are now losing roughly 6%, 6 times the national average now. Because that was done within a span of 19 years. Again, 2000 to 2019, it's 19 years. Almost 2 decades. 73 people have died, right? Under the sheriff's office. Since 2020, we have lost 54. By 2027, we will have surpassed 73 people dead Now you tell me, just by the numbers, are we safer with the jail trust in control? I want you to think about that for a minute, because there has been a lot of hyperbole. There's been a lot of propaganda that's been pushed out by activists who support the jail trust, who have, some of them have business relations with some of the people who are attached to this issue, but also people who are uninformed that are in their camps. They believe that we need to keep the jail trust. And I quote, I heard on one podcast that I don't know what the answer is. Yes, things are worse than before, but we can't have law enforcement get back in there. We can't have the sheriff's office get back in there. So if it's worse than it's ever been before, here's the question I ask people. If it is worse than it ever was, right, and it was worse now, and we're losing more human beings, which also are costing money by lawsuits, by just health costs, by all of the cost to detain people, all of those things. The county jail is about 40% of the county budget, right? So it is the most important thing at Oklahoma County. It is the number one issue, and it should be the most talked about issue because it is 40% of our budget, roughly. And guess what? The private entity that is in charge of the county jail has murdered more people on average annually than the sheriff's office ever did. Sheriff's office was 3 times more than national average. We're around 6 times the national average now. National average is around 1 to 2 people dying per year, per 1,000 inmates. That's the average. We are losing 8 per year. 8 to 12. Sometimes it roughly goes around there. I always go conservative just for wiggle room, right? We're losing over 8 people per year when the national average is around 2. 2. Right? So we have to think about that for a minute. Do we still need the jail trust in control? If they are, from all, substantive metrics, loss of life, money, and things like that, and just we haven't passed a health inspection, do we need to have them in control? I think of 2 things. I always go off of this, despite what you feel, right? The 2 main measuring sticks on whether to keep the county jail trust in control is loss of life and failed health inspections. We haven't passed a health inspection yet since the sheriff was in charge. And there were times when the sheriff would fail one, and then the next inspection would pass it. Right? But we haven't passed one since the sheriff was in control. I want people to understand that. We don't have a working metal detector anymore in the front door of the lobby. You literally can walk in there with a gun and you could take over the county jail if you really wanted to. I wouldn't advise it. I'm just saying if you really wanted to, hypothetically, you could do it. Who's going to stop you? There's no armed guard. There's no metal detector. Half the time they leave the doors open. I know that because there's recordings of it. I've physically been there. And various members who I collaborate with have been there. Federal agents have seen this. Which comes to my next point. Is when you hear people talk about we need the federal government to come in there, I'm one of those people that believes that. Because when is enough enough? Right? The government is supposed to do its job. And all people like myself and People's Council for Justice Reform and other folks that have collaborated. And again, I'm not a member, but I work closely with them when I can. I love what they do. We have been collectively, collaborating with the federal government on this and other issues. I personally testified before the grand jury, supplied the AG's office with a ton of information. So we've been doing our part. And all we've been asking for is that the basics be done. Literally, stop killing people, feed them, give them their medication, right? Give them showers. Basic stuff. Stop beating them, stop raping them, stop. We have to get out of we have to think about that stuff for a minute, right? When you hear all of the let me shift my camera down. When you hear all of the hyperbole, all of the, we need a new jail, we need to tear that one down. I agree, it's not an architectural masterpiece, but the overwhelming majority of the issues at that jail have nothing to do with the building. Site checks have nothing to do with the building. Crushing people's medication or not giving them medication, I'm still waiting for Brick and Mortar to explain that one. Raping inmates, beating them, allowing that stuff to happen. I'm still waiting for a logical example of how Brick and Mortar does that. I already mentioned site checks, right? Being over 70 investigations behind on crimes that have happened there. I'm still waiting for an explanation of how a building is responsible for that. Not giving inmates soap. I'm still waiting for those who are in support of the trust to explain how not giving people bars of soap is a building. I'm still waiting on not feeding them. How is that a building? Not providing them blankets, not providing them clothes, not giving them feminine hygiene products, not allowing them to take showers, not giving them water. Those are the biggest things that happen that have been publicly documented, and yet I'm waiting for somebody to tell me how that logically is a building's fault. And the reality is, Oklahoma County and anybody else who's watching, it's not the building's fault. All right, a building is a dead entity. It is not alive. There is no cellular activity within Brick. So it's not the building's fault. Do we need a new facility? Yeah. Or massively renovate that facility. And that it could be another video for another time. But let's talk about the reality here for just a minute. Let's use our brains for a minute. Let's just think. All of those things I listed, does a building have anything to do with that? The answer is, objectively, just by listening to it, no. You look at all of the reports. No. Nothing to do with it. Majority of the problems, overwhelming. When I mean overwhelming, I'm meaning a lot. Most. The problems have nothing to do with the brick and mortar. Cleanliness. I'm still waiting for somebody to explain to me how a building grows hands and a brush and starts scrubbing itself. That's people. That's management. That has nothing to do with the physical structure itself. So when you look at all of those things and then you calculate all of that stuff I mentioned, and then the two major metrics, health inspections failed 10 in a row. And anybody who's been paying attention to the news knows all of the shenanigans that's went on with that, all of the lawsuits and everything like that. I don't even need to get into that. Google it if you don't know. 10 failed inspections, right? Litigation behind that, all of that stuff. And 54 deaths. And we will have over 73 in 7 years versus the sheriff's 19. Tell me how that's safer under the jail trust. Because objectively, it's not. The people who work there are not safer. The public is not safer. The detainees, the human beings, right? Detainees, the fellow Oklahomans that made a mistake, whether it's a violent offense or not, which, by the way, the overwhelming majority of those folks have nonviolent offenses and haven't even went to court yet. So apparently in our system we're, I don't know, innocent until proven guilty, but yet these people are dying in rapid rates. We are set. If we look at the math, the way that it is going right now, we've already lost 2 this year, maybe more. I'm predicting that we're going to lose over 10 people. I'm not going to jump and say any more than that, right? Not right now. But we're going to have a higher number than the last 2 years, just because we're already starting off bad. But this thing, it's literally a mathematical equation if you just look at it on its face. Right, Oklahoma County, just think about it. If in 4 years, we're not even at year 5 yet, and we have got 54 dead, right? And within 2 more years, we will have surpassed 73. That's 7 years versus 19 years. That's not safer. That's more deadly. That's more dangerous. That's not me. In this universe, it's still 1 + 1, ladies and gentlemen. It's still 1 + 1. And in the small clique of powerful people and sycophantic suck-up activists at the county, 1 + 1 is -30 in their mind. Or whatever nonsensical nonsense, whatever nonsense they can come up with to justify their flawed and irrational thinking. We can do better than this, Oklahoma County. We can do much better than this. But we have to just look at things for what they are. A chair is a chair. It's not a ceiling, right? We just have to look at this for what it is. We are much more dangerous. It is more unsafe. It's costing us way more money. It's time for the jail trust to go, in my mind. Send me some comments. I'll try to answer them, do the best I can, or I'll answer them in the next video. Just drop me down some comments. Tell me what you guys think. I will say that if you have nothing productive to ask or say, then just don't. I don't want any of the hate and everything like that. I've had to deal with, being hate in the past because I stand up for what's right. And usually when you're upfront and loud and you're fighting against powerful people, they'll try to tear you down. But look, we've just got to ask better. We just got to demand that something change, right? And so lastly, if we can't convince the county, because the jail trust has to fire themselves, which I probably will explain in another video, the breakdown, maybe, and just try to encapsulate what's going on there, right? But essentially, the jail trust has to fire themselves, which is crazy if you think about it. It's maddening. They have to fire themselves, and then the county commissioners approve it, and then it goes to the governor's desk. Well, there's a whole lot of no accountability asking people to fire themselves. Yeah, that's not going to happen. It hasn't yet. So past behavior usually predicts current and future behavior. That's what we got to think about here. So we got to think about this, guys, that if the county does not do its job and does not dissolve the jail trust and hand everything back over to the sheriff's office, then we need to get the Department of Justice in there, which folks have been trying to get the DOJ in there for a long time. Trust me, I'm very frustrated of how long this is taking. There's absolutely no reason that we have gone on this far, but nonetheless, we have to be able to keep pushing, as we as activists can't get things done without the government doing its job, right? We can raise awareness and educate. At the end of the day, we don't have a badge and we don't have prosecutorial powers. We don't have those things that would give us the authority to go in there and shut the place down, do criminal investigations into the jail trust and whatnot. Law enforcement has to do that, whether it's federal government on down. So we have to rely on those people. And we have to keep trying. So I'm going to put in here in the description and maybe underneath the video, I'm going to put in the phone number and the email of the investigative team, the DOJ team that's there. They've got a phone number that you can call. They've also got an email that you can email. Let's flesh out what's going on nationally, right? To a certain degree. Yes, there's some stuff going on that's making the news, but we got to keep doing our job here on the ground. Because guess what? Presidents come and go, right? This situation's been going on for a long time, and it's happened under presidents of various political affiliations. So this isn't just miracled itself into existence randomly. It's been a while going on. So we just got to keep our eye on the prize. All right? Love you guys. Oklahoma County, I love you. You're beautiful, and you are worth it. All right? Let's just keep trying. So, yeah. Wonderful talking to you guys, and I'll see you around. Thank you.